Hello, everyone. I wanted to share with you my experience throughout the last 7 days total, I would say. So if I remember correctly, on Sunday night, excuse me, on Sunday night, I felt that something was happening inside of me. And kind of like, catching a cold. And usually, since I've been very healthy, my diet is super healthy, I do exercise, so everything is very in a pretty good state. My blood tests are very good, very balanced. Even my doctor, compliments me, and that's pretty important and very interesting, for your doctor to really tell you that you are in your tests are excellent. Because imagine how many people, he has to, have all these statistics. So anyway, so I'm always ready and prepared, and then the cold, I try to get ready for the cold before, get started. And if you have a strong immune system, then in my case, it goes away in one day, and I'm ready to roll after a whole, believe that I rest the whole day and sleep the whole night, and then I'm ready to go the next day. That's my drill. And I take maybe some over-the-counter, like daytime Theraflu, just very mild. And I try to give my body, the less of medication, and lots of fluids and tea with lemon. So I really lots of water, and then rest, so my immune system can work more effectively without any kind of over saturation of being outside or moving around, spending more energy. So the best the best mode for you is to be resting and sleeping as much as you can, so everything is being taken care of inside of your body. This is all common sense. So this particular day, last Sunday, I was very, very tired, and I said to myself, okay, I'm not going out on Monday. And I slept, but I really slept like 10 hours, and thinking, okay, this is good. I'm giving, the time to my body to heal, and I'm gonna get out of this cold right away. So that was Monday, and then Tuesday I stayed again, and then I believe Wednesday I stayed again, and for some reason, when I was having some dark chocolate, I could not feel the taste of the dark chocolate, and it really put me off guard in 1 second. And then I tried just a piece of cheese, And basically everything was just tasting like cardboard. And it was very, very stressing and worrisome. And then obviously, lucky me, I had a few COVID test, kits. Lucky me, I had like 4 with 2 tests inside each box. So I took the first one, and from the get-go, from the very, very get-go, the line, the stripe, marked the letter T. And so the little C means that you're negative, and then the little T, it means that you're positive. And then you have a series of variants where you can have both lines is negative, is positive. Whenever the 2 lines show of any kind of grade, faded or not faded, it's positive still. So the only way that is absolutely negative is when the line happens on the C letter that you find. But that was not my case. So that was fine. So I waited 15 minutes because you have to wait 15 minutes. But most likely in the first minute if you have COVID or not, basically. And then, the line is going to get stronger or weaker, but it's going to give you right away. So that really threw me off, and I could not believe it, but I was also feeling internally this weakness, and I was doing okay in terms of breathing. I was having this coughing at times, so I took some Mucinex over the counter, which is pretty good, very strong. Allows you to sleep well also. And so I had to start mind setting, myself to really understand, okay, I have COVID. And so remember that I went to the store just to get some, medicine, what have you, and I was feeling the fatigue, and then, back to bed and really try to deal psychologically and physically with this, pretty intense, virus. And so on February 10th to February 11th is when I made the test, and then I went to February 12th, February 13th, and then finally February 15th, which it was yesterday, finally the line showed only on the C line, meaning that finally the virus had decreased and hopefully just left my system, and also had become part of my immune system, which is a good thing. I only got the flu shots, this year, and also, so I've been trying. So okay, so let's go back to losing I think it's called anosmia, when you lose your capacity to smell and taste. It's very frustrating. It's scary. It's very stressful. Generally, you can regain after getting COVID your capacity of smell and tasting after a couple of weeks, up to a month, and some others say that even it could last the whole year or even up to 2 years. And very rare occasions, you just lost it forever. And then they give you all these exercises where you get to kind of like smell very gently for 20 seconds twice a day, they say, just aromatic, textures such as, tea tree oil or peppermint or just smells that they kind of trigger your inner neural cells that are inside your nostrils. And well, so far these two are combined, taste and smell. So, but what happens to you is that you definitely stress out. You get very frustrated, and then the irony is that instead of, in my case, you stop eating less and less and less because you know that you're gonna find no taste on any kind of food that you might have. It's the contrary. You might finding yourself eating more because you're so frustrating, and you want to find that moment when you finally are going to feel something, that you're going to taste something, that you're going to smell something. So you add more food. And the psychology of you knowing when you're full and you are satisfied is the trickiest sensation that I have ever felt, in terms of if you eat a piece of chocolate, is because you're carving for chocolate, some sweet, some sugar. And so you're gonna end that bar of chocolate, for example, and then your brain is gonna tell, okay, you're done with that event that you were carving for chocolate, and then you're gonna settle down and not want to carve for chocolate any longer. But by not having the capacity of tasting and feeling everything that tastes like cardboard, you're going to induce yourself to consume more chocolate in order to somehow find that, delusion of thinking that the next piece of chocolate you're actually going to be able to taste it. It's very interesting. So you have to stop yourself, you have to restrain yourself and deal with the present situation, and try not to freak out or get frustrated, and just go day by day. And the main factor here is to check your COVID test daily, on a daily basis, and see how the line starts decreasing and decreasing, and then switches to the letter C, which tells you that finally you're free of the virus. You have to take care of that first, and then after, very gradually, you might start feeling and sensing certain taste. One of the best that I noticed experiment or by drinking a cup of coffee. You'll know so well how your coffee tastes, that you're gonna get a sip and it's gonna taste like drinking absolutely nothing. And throughout time, hopefully you're gonna start regaining that taste, and you're gonna pacify yourself and calm down yourself. Say, okay, I'm tasting a little bit of coffee here. Okay, so then it's gonna get better and better and better. That's what I believe personally. But so far, the foods that I've been eating, such as cheese, honey, dark chocolate, broccoli, all oranges. I can feel up to maybe a 10, max 20% of the whole range of of the capacity of tasting something. So it is very encountering, is very it's pretty hardcore. But the main thing is to get over the COVID first. So you have to be very disciplined, and let me tell you, I experienced a 0.5% of what this virus was before, and what what really, just imagine people that they don't have a pretty strong diet, or their immune system is weak somehow, and they just got this virus on the worst back then, 2022 and 2021, and just imagine of the power of this virus on its first stage, and what it did to the whole world. But it's very complicated. It's very complicated. Why? Because this topic of applying science and merging science with politics is suicidal, basically. The power of true goodness and smart decisions, very wise decisions. In my mind, I always had this vision. If you live in a city with high range, with several millions of people, your body is not going to be the same as someone who lives in the mountains or in a very small town close to the mountains or the ocean or anywhere, but where it's 3,000 people per town, for example, or even 20,000 people per town. It's not going to be the same configuration of your DNA while you have been spending all your life in big cities, and especially in New York City. It will never be the same. So to pretend that you can apply one golden rule to, this is scientifically, biologically, sociologically, on all aspects, and to this stubbornness of not wanting to get like deeply more intellectual into understanding just the basics of just the common sense of understanding that biologically my body will never be the same as someone who lives in a smaller, more natural atmosphere. And if you somehow push, because I can make sense about myself of being interacting in society on a daily basis and getting all these viruses inside of my body in and out, and then getting, vaccines for this or for that, or following certain, it's I know it's very, very hard to understand, but it would be suicidal once again to not to have a minimum of an understanding that it's just the only way. It's the only way, unfortunately. But it's not the only way for other sectors and other areas where their bodies are super healthy, just from the air that they breathe and the food that they eat, and they're super, super healthy. So once we contaminate their bodies with any kind of other foreigner antibodies, it's complicated, and it's a shock. It's a shock for their system, and this is not rocket science. This is just common sense. But let me tell you, I experienced a 0.5% of what this virus was capable to do before. And the mutation of the virus, of declining upon its strength to kill was only thanks to society. And that's interesting. And then it declined and it morphed and it morphed, and people were not understanding. People were not understanding of all this constant different changing on the definitions, and everything was pretty much being explained behind, too many smoke and mirrors. That, I believe, that was the issue. But to make all this simple, it was granted that the virus was going to decline in its strength just because of society, because the virus was passing through all these different biological entities by the millions, and somehow could not keep up with our own system as a conglomerate, as a mass. And that is a very interesting thing. That's a very good thing. But when other people from smaller areas were encountering the intervention from foreigner chemicals and things in their bodies, that created a break. That created a broken pattern in order to, instead of protect those biological entities, as meaning human bodies, in a much more conceptual, intellectual manner, understanding that when people speak without pausing, is that they really are following their instincts, and they really are connected with their nature in a very wholesome way. And those particular, sectors were not listened to. And that is a problem. That is a big, big problem. Knowing that they knew there was something wrong, they knew they were accepting something that was against their nature, that they felt strong. And once again, if you live in New York, and we're gonna pretend that we have a much stronger and healthier body than someone who lives right next to, next to the mountain in Aspen, Colorado, or anywhere, we are absolutely delusional. We are so contaminated that is ridiculous. But we keep on getting all this help from foreigner entities in our body to fight against this contamination, and then somehow our immune system just locks into it and becomes a former, our new D.N.A. in order to keep on, our strength together, living in a serious conglomerated mass such as New York City. But that's my personal opinion. That's the way I experienced this virus on these, 7 days total. But so far, I made, I believe, 5 tests from day 1 to the 5th day, and technically the virus passed through my body state for 5 days. I had consistent mild fever, and then it went away, thankfully, taking Tylenol and Theraflu and what have you. And also confusion. That's so interesting. I felt that my mind would just get, blanked, like just totally blanked, like white noise. And then I will come back. I will have to blink a couple of times to really understand my surroundings. The first time when I went out just to interact or to feel, everything around me outside, it took me hours, a couple hours, early morning. It took me a couple hours to really click back into it. But the first couple hours, I was absolutely lost. Like, it was so interesting. not understanding my surroundings. And then eventually I fell into it. So, and I believe I was very lucky because I've been so consistent in my diet and keeping my mind always very active creatively, and this is just a prop. I do not smoke. So basically, it really made me to be my own experiment, an empirical, experiment about COVID. Well, first of all, is the fragility of how, what we are, but how disciplined we have to become in order to overcome this kind of, very unfortunate virus. But my advice, because I thought I never gonna get COVID, that would never happen to me, like everybody else. So my advice is to, whenever you have a cold and you think that it might be just a cold, just get the COVID test right away. That would be the first step. And have lined up maybe, just to be on the safe side and for you to have a peace of mind, have 10 boxes. So you can see the strength of the line throughout time, because you'll see the line fading throughout time if you are really taking care of yourself. Do not go out and just sleep and fluids and sleep and fluids and sleep and, pain, fever reliever and what have you. But that is a drill. And then check yourself. And then obviously if you have a negative test and you're fine, you just have a cold and you're great, lucky. Even you might have the flu, great, amazing. But once you start the best way to really know if you're losing your taste or smell is to just have a piece of something very sweet, extremely sweet, like honey, for example, and something very, very salty, like just any that it has a lot of salt, or even salt in itself. Put it in your tongue and you'll know that it's not the same. But once again, sometimes when you catch a cold, they say that you might be losing a little bit of your senses, but of taste and smell. But definitely pronouncedly with COVID, in 1 second, your taste and smell are gone. I cannot even imagine, because this is what I started to kind of like to think. Imagine people that back then, and even throughout, and even till now, they are, excuse me, my voice, there are in the culinary enterprises, like being chefs or cooks or whoever, they have to deal with, tasting the food. I mean, where your career goes, if you do not have the capability of tasting and smelling, that it's like having a musician losing their ear, or having, an artist, a visual artist losing, their sight. I mean, this is really, really intense, and very, very intense for those ones that work in such, professions. And I truly hope that, this is gonna go away. but I really doubt it. I think that it just became the new flu. And what I don't like about this new flu with the COVID is this danger of losing your taste and smell like in 1 second. It went away in 1 second, guys. It wasn't even, oh, I got it on Sunday night, for example, and it just, the first day on Monday, Tuesday, when I was in the middle, basically, I realized, because I wasn't eating much, so I wasn't really paying attention. But once I felt a little better, I said, I'm gonna have a little bit of dark chocolate. And that's when I realized that, oh my gosh, I'm not feeling anything. I'm not getting any sweet. And although dark chocolate is bitter, but still, you can sense the whole aroma and the whole, it's still now. I mean, it's even like if I'm drinking some coffee. Now it's kind of coming back, but I was able to feel like 30% of coffee without sugar. So, and just have like a diary, like that is actually what I did. Like I was just noting and taking pictures of every single day of how I was feeling, the level of confusion, because it does something to your brain also. I mean, it's very intense. And once again, guys, I experienced this into a 0.5% of what this virus was before. And all this agony and all this pain of so many people leaving this earth because of this virus. And then all these complex decisions, helping some and hurting others. This lack of understanding of what we are in society is so fluid, is so amorphic, that you cannot state one strict rule for absolutely everyone and everywhere. You just cannot. It's that simple. So I don't know how higher hierarchies in our formation as society can really start analyzing what we truly are is only because of our surroundings, psychologically, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It's all combined in one. Our surroundings. And that's why I hate politics, pretty much. I think as an artist, I understand it is necessary, but I have seen it all, basically. I'm 51 years old. I have seen it all. I have seen the lies from absolutely everyone. And some of them don't even realize it. That is a problem. And that really bothers me, because at the end of the line affects the people that cannot really afford to thrive in life without the help of our government. So it's very complicated, but I really hope that this video It's my personal statement of what I went through. And now what you're seeing is all these kind of congestion just leaving my body, and it has to come out. And because I feel very strong, I don't feel lightheaded or weak. I feel that I'm in line. I'm I feel okay. So this is just leaving my body system, but it was very striking. I felt something very powerful happening here in just traveling throughout all my body and taking all my energy away, like in 1 second. And that's pretty intense. And once again, I went through only a 5 period of contracting COVID just because of how disciplined I have been with my diet, my mind, and it's overwhelming. It's just overwhelming. By changing your diet and avoiding, I still have my cravings like everybody else, and in terms of a piece of chocolate cake, and a piece of croissant in the morning, early morning. So if I'm going to go for a croissant, I try not to make it an almond croissant, but just a plain croissant, less sugar. Yeah, so, and I don't think that really hurts me much, but sugar and starch are just the worst, and we all get all these feeds, on our phones, and it's amazing all these decisions that we are capable of making, but we have to really do our homework and have all these different second, third, fourth, fifth opinions, whatever appears on Google, because what I came to realize about the chat GPT is that it only gives you one format and one piece of information from that algorithm, from that particular software, with one option for you to have. And that's tricky. That is very tricky. It is useful for certain things, but it gives you only one answer. Instead, on Google, you have all these different alternatives where your mind is commanding you to pick up one, and that's when you have to be very studied and for example, the last feed that I was getting into is to start drinking water or tea using copper, a copper cup. They say with the metals, and it purifies the water and what have you. And then it said that is amazing, that is so cool. But we have to be so careful with this concept about metals in our bodies that can just create a whole perfect storm to everything to go south. And so then I started to exploring more answers and questions about copper, and unfortunately there is a drawback about really using a copper cup at all times. And that is interesting, that it just sends it was something concerning about your cells and what was the definition of I think that excessive amount of copper in your system would allow the decrease of aluminum. I'm not sure about that, but what I'm sure is that the increase of inflammations in your body. That I'm sure, that I remember. And I said, okay, say no more. So no copper. So, because you have all these several feeds on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, everywhere, it's everywhere, telling you, do this, do that, consume this. There's a whole, your body is so unique and so individual that it's impossible to give a generic solution for absolutely everyone. But if you oversaturate your body, just common sense once again, with a metal, aluminum, copper, anything, iodine, just everything is going to become unbalanced, and it's going to trigger a domino effect, and it's going to start altering your inner organs. That is all common sense. So you have to have a very, very clear map where you can read and study and see what you are doing and how much you're taking. Finally, I came to start getting my my B12 with omega-3 with my fish oil. And so I was having issues because it was very smelly and too strong. So I was just pushing it away. And then finally, I find a dropper where I can just, and then they tell you that you have to take 10, that the minimum per day, like a good amount per day, is 10,000 international grams or counts. And 10,000 international grams is basically 10 drops from any dropper, those bottles with dropper. So then I found it finally, and I made a space, and I pour some this amazing fish oil from Amsterdam and or the Netherlands. And now I just get 10 drops on my tea, and I mix it with all my other basic stuff that I take, like apple cider vinegar and what have you, almond extract, peppermint extract, early morning. So now I'm getting my $10,000 per day, and I'm super happy because that it's almost like alchemy, basically what we're doing, all of us. It's just like playing alchemy. So we have to, and the philosophical stone, remember, like Newton went after that when he retreated himself in the middle of the woods for I don't know how long, a couple of years. But then he reinserted himself back in society on top of his game. It was very interesting about Newton. But that's what we're playing basically on a daily basis, alchemy. So we have to just, if we can see and study the numbers of our molecules and atoms and cells, and very soon I'm going to have a CT brain scan, which is very interesting, and I hope that it tells me something, because I know that I'm going, I have been through a lot personally, but I have been getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and believe me, society does not help you. Society does not give you a pat on the back and tells you, we love you. Not at all. It's all predatory and very vicious and insanely morbid out there. So you have to be very neutral and avoid any kind of, if they see you that you are, going through something, or they see you, I don't know, they just basically don't like you. Don't take it personal and keep carrying on, keep moving on, and just push those kind of circles away from you as much as you can, basically. But also, I have noticed this tendency to since how many decades and decades and thousands of years, basically, for the fountain of youth. People, I'm going to be very honest with you. This is what I think, okay? If you have not developed your spiritual foundation, you're just going to become a morbid and yucky zombie vampire, basically. Because no matter how lean your neck and your eyes and your forehead, no matter how lean you might, so you can show to the world how beautiful you are at the age of 80, that is pure madness, okay? And that is not my opinion. That is pure madness. But it's an orchestrated and very well articulated madness that in society people get away with if they're very well protected financially. So the money becomes your, protection dome, per se. Now, in my world, my dome is my inner power, excuse me, is my inner power, my conscious spiritual power to try to honor and to protect and always respect the higher power which is above me. And if I go against that protection, and it has happened to me in the past, it's not like I get punished or I say I'm being punished by. No, that is the most pathetic. That is the most pathetic and sad answer that you can give to anybody. It's such a subject. We are not getting punished by. We hurt ourselves. We punish ourselves. I mean, it's so simple. Now, when incredible things burst out of a ball of light, now that is something that you have to stop yourself and take it all in and try to understand it. Because I deny and reject when incredible things happen around me, because I feel that I am not worth it, that I am not that individual that deserves to be close or nearby that, but I try my best. Because I have this thing in my psyche that I try to be very harsh on myself to keep myself in the real world. And like, I'm a hypocrite, total cynic, and that I think and feel that I'm going to get there and deserve something when I'm no longer here. That's my mind speaking to me. And I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. But at the same time, it keeps me moving faster, and I get the obstacles out of the way faster, and it's my free will and it's my decisions and not others' decisions. So that is important. The power of your decision, the power of your yes or your no is yours. It's not, I know that the rules of the game change once you depend on an enterprise or the pyramid of the, you know, the power of the earth, of just the earth. Contrast our inner power, our principles, and all these energy that we emanate, correct? So and then families out there have to really, and leaders of their families, they have to take decisions to in order to keep their families protected and keep moving forward. And at times those decisions go against their principles, and they do all of that, and they carry that weight just to keep their families protected and safe. So I cannot even express my admiration for those ones, those leaders of their families that carry the weight upon their shoulders, and sometimes nobody knows. They're all are the only ones knowing I did it because of love. And these are just, you know, nothing. These are just decisions of maybe someone is taking a lot of mistreatment and they know that they cannot say anything back to their superiors, so because they lose their jobs and they don't want to, because they're feeding their families. I'm talking about that kind of chain reaction, you know, a very subtle injustice, nothing to, but still that stress just takes all over you. And the only moment, those moments where everything is worth it, is when you are at your home, next to your chimney, you know, sharing with your family and laughing and living for that fraction of a second, you know, a true fairy tale with your family. And then you do feel proud of yourself. I don't know as an artist if I ever going to have that feeling. I don't really think so, because I'm extremely obsessed with my work, because I have to. It's just part of my journey. But when I look at other families and I see, you know, their children laughing or they're carrying the stroller, and it brings me such a joy, and it's so pure and beautiful. Those very amazing things are the ones giving me that push on a daily basis, you know, to focus on the beauty instead of the ugly. I think that is very important, you know, emotionally and psychologically, just to carry on. Well, that was a very good conversation. I hope that you hopefully can understand me. And I have so many thoughts and so many things to say in general that I'm going to find myself to put them all in order and try to be very concise and, you know, to deliver all my information that I have inside of me and bring it to you in a very clear way. But I want you to have an amazing day today, and I talk to you soon.